Hello guys, I'm back. My name is Roranoa TV. This video is about what if Gohan was in My Hero Academia Part 1. Hope you like my video. Please subscribe, like and share Roranoa TV for more fanfiction crossover stories. Run, Gohan. Run, petrified. Every cell in his body screamed run, but Gohan couldn't move. His vision blurred for what seemed like hours, and when the haze lifted, it was like waking from a long dream. His eyes sobered at the sight and realization of the carnage around him. Fire consumed everything, filling the air with the acrid taste of ash. A gust of wind pushed back the smoky curtain, and that's when Gohan saw the bodies, strewn amid the rubble like lost and broken dolls. Slowly, labored gasps pierced the ringing veil in his ears. Oh, that's why he couldn't move. Two large, meaty hands were firmly gripping his shoulders, giving some semblance of stability in this rapidly spiraling world. It's going to be alright, kid. Everything is going to be alright. His grip was solid steel, both comforting and reassuring the child that he was safe and at the same time, forbidding him from looking beyond, at the devastation, at the pile of bodies and his father's among them. Slowly the haze lifted completely from Gohan's eyes, replaced by panicked realization. Dad? Where's my daddy? But All Might brought him close into an embrace. The tears that streamed down his bloodied and ashen cheeks contradicted the smile on his face. And you wanna know why? All Might was sobbing as he held the tiny boy in his giant arms. Because I am here. My hero origins. Gohan's eyes opened, waking in a cold sweat. That dream, that vivid, almost lucid dream again. This wasn't the first time he had dreamed such a horrible thing. He shivered in his bed, his heartbeat pounding against his ears as he tried to collect himself. It's just a dream, it's just a dream. Slowly, his breathing calmed, reality setting in. It's just a dream. Gohan sighed deeply, rubbing his eyes and sitting up on his bed with his back against the wall. Hey, little guy. You up yet? The bunk bed above him stirred and a tiny head hanged over the side upside down. Yeah, you woke me up, Goten accused, his hair hanging down comically. Was it the nightmare again? I heard you crying, for Dad. Gohan stared at his little brother's face, so young and innocent yet concerned, it was almost comical. Gohan smiled and patted him gently on the cheek. It's just a dream. Come on, let's get you ready for school. Goten groaned and tossed himself back up to his bed, sheltering himself under the covers. Hey, come on little guy, work with me here. Another groan. Gohan sighed and shook his head. Okay, but if you're late again, you'll have to explain it to Mom. Goten sighed and tossed the covers off. I'm up, he raised his hands in defeat. I'm up. That's a good boy. Come on, I'll help you down, Gohan said, stretching his arms out. That's okay, I've got it, Goten said, climbing down on his own. Look at you, little guy. You're growing up so fast, Gohan thought with a smile. As he helped Goten get dressed, he passed by a framed picture. He paused for just a second to look at it as he ironed Goten's school shirt. The picture had been taken just outside of their farm when Gohan was around 2 or 3 years old, laughing happily in the arms of his parents. His mother wore a long blue dress and his father had an olive-colored work jacket and a straw hat. They looked so happy. Goten had been born 9 months after his dad had died in that terrible accident 7 years ago, so he never had the opportunity to experience having a dad. That terrible accident. Goten, breakfast is ready. Gohan gave Goten the ironed shirt and helped him button up. Let's go eat, Gohan said. Good idea, I'm starving. Do you have everything you need? Homework? Bus card? Lunch money? Goten patted the pockets of his uniform. Oh, I'm missing my school badge. I think Mom had it relaminated. Okay, Gohan said. Go on and eat, I'll get it for you. As Goten made his way down to the kitchen table, Gohan searched through the cabinets for Goten's badge. Here it is, he mumbled to himself. As he pulled it out, the lanyard pulled out some folded papers that fell to the floor. Gohan sighed sadly as he picked them up. Final notice. Payment due immediately. One read in bold red letters. The second one was more lengthy. Dear valued member, we regret to inform you that at this time your application for emergency personal loan has been denied. Gohan couldn't read anymore. But the final paper broke his heart. Dear Mrs. Sun, due to company outsourcing and reduction of staff in your department, your employment has been terminated, effective immediately. The letter had been sent 2 weeks ago. Oh, Mom, why didn't you tell me? Gohan stuffed the letters into his pocket as he entered the kitchen. Radish soup again? Goten complained. Chi-Chi turned, looking as tired as ever in her old apron. I'm sorry, honey. It's nutritious. But we had radish soup last night, Goten whined, poking at the sliced radish with his spoon. I hear you, Goten. But not every meal can be a treat, and I made enough soup for the entire day. You mean we're having this for dinner, too? Chi-Chi slammed her hands against the table, making Goten jump. That's right, mister, she said, her voice rising to a furious growl. This isn't a restaurant. You eat what I cook. She's masking her sadness with anger, Gohan noted. His mother had always been known for her short temper, but after learning that she had lost her job and that they had no way of paying their bills this month, Gohan was able to recognize the sadness and desperation hidden behind her anger. Hey now, Gohan intervened. You want to grow up to be a big strong hero, right? Then you have to learn to eat your vegetables. Look at Popeye, Radish gives him his quirk and you don't see him complain about it, now do you? Popeye eats spinach, Goten corrected him, annoyed. Well there you go, Gohan said, throwing his hand up. Maybe your quirk gets activated by Radish. Goten stared at him skeptically, then his gaze lowered at the vegetable soup. I've had radish soup before, Gohan. Nothing's ever happened. Come on, stop complaining and just be grateful we're not living in the farm anymore. Back then, we had to eat radishes raw. Goten nodded, wrinkling his nose. Okay, fine. Chi-Chi gave Gohan a tired, thankful glance before serving him and herself. We ready? Gohan said. Ready, Goten replied. The two boys clasped their hands together in appreciation for the food. Itadakimasu, they said together. The sun shined brightly in the cloudless sky, and the smell of a fresh, humid new morning filled the air, mixing with the low grumble of the cars and buses that dotted the streets of Musutafu. Gohan breathed it all in as he walked down the sidewalk, holding Goten's small hand as they crossed the street. Goten was looking up at him. Gohan, he said, are you thinking about the farm again? Gohan caught himself. Yeah, he admitted. Every morning he would look towards the easternmost mountain, Mount Paozu. Home. I miss it sometimes. The fields are ripe for the harvest around this time. Do you think Mom misses it too? Gohan gave him a sad smile. All the time, I'm sure. We had a lot of good memories up there. Then why don't we move back? Goten asked innocently. We can't. No, Goten wouldn't be able to understand. This is home now, kiddo, Gohan said instead, patting Goten on the head. At least here we are, stable. You just focus on getting good grades. Here in the city, you can be anything, if you put your mind to it. Even a pro hero? Goten asked, eyes beaming. Gohan stared at his little brother for a moment. Like any other child, Goten had big dreams of becoming a pro hero. If Gohan was being completely honest, he did, too. But now that he was older, that dream seemed far more distant than ever before. Two major obstacles stood in their way. The first was their mother, who for some reason abhorred pro heroes and forbade the two from having anything to do with them. And the second, personal obstacle was that they were both quirkless. I'm sure Dad would have found a way to become a pro, Goten muttered. The light turned green for the pedestrians, playing a little tune as Gohan and Goten crossed the street. Even though he and Mom were both quirkless, too. Gohan stayed silent, processing it all as they reached their destination. From here, the sidewalk led down to the station that would in turn take Gohan to his school. Gohan kneeled to be at eye level with Goten, fixing his small shirt collar. Just remember one thing, Goten, Gohan said, smoothing the collar down. Not all heroes wear capes. Even quirkless boys like you and I can become heroes, if we're not afraid to do what's right. Gohan stared at his big brother. I don't really get what you mean, Gohan. Gohan smiled. When you're older, you'll understand. Hey look, there's your little friend. Goten turned and waved at the small figure that was standing at the edge of the lake, tossing rocks into the water. Go on, Gohan encouraged him. Be safe and don't be late for school. Okay, Goten said with a smile and took off running towards his friend. Hey, Trunks. Gohan watched as his little brother disappeared. Have fun, and learn much, he called out, but Goten was already out of earshot. With a satisfied grin, Gohan turned and walked back home, thinking of what would ever become of the boy when he grows up. As Gohan rounded the corner of his apartment building, he noticed a shiny red car parked right outside of his door. That's odd. Mom didn't say she was having company over, he thought. He walked through the door and heard conversation coming from the living room. Curiously, Gohan approached quietly, when he heard the soft sounds of sobbing mixed with laughter. Gohan pressed himself against the wall and peered around the corner discreetly. 4 men in expensive suits surrounded his mother. To his horror, Chi-Chi was on her knees, her forehead against the floor. Please, she sobbed, please tell Sarakin-san that I'll have a payment ready soon. I just fell behind on my bills and on top of that the factory is relocating to China. Ah, yeah, the man directly in front of Man chuckled. We heard about that. That's why the boss sent us straight to you before you had the chance to even think of skipping town. Please, Chi-Chi begged. With what money would I leave? I barely have enough to feed my kids. Shut up. The man yelled. Gohan's hand balled into a fist, his blood beginning to boil. You think Sarakin-san cares about that? Now it's time to make a payment. We have nothing, Chi-Chi yelled in desperation. The thug slammed his fist against Chi-Chi's head, his icy quirk covering his fist like a gauntlet. Chi-Chi yelped as she fell back. Mom! Gohan ran and caught her. Chi-Chi groaned in pain. Why are you doing this? Hitting a woman who is begging for mercy. Don't you have a heart? He yelled. The thug cleaned his hand, completely ignoring Gohan. He and the rest of his crew got up to leave. The thug dropped a business card on the ground callously. You've got till the end of the day to bring Sarakin-san his money, the thug said coldly. Sell your body if you have to, but you better have his damn money, or else. Gohan's teeth gritted and his anger swelled up inside him. Gohan, Chi-Chi said weakly. Don't, please, it will only make things worse. Oh, Mom, Gohan's pent-up tears finally spilled. Why did you feel the need to go and get a loan from those loan sharks? Why didn't you tell me you had lost your job? I could have helped you. Chi-Chi managed a weak smile, wiping away Gohan's tears with her thumb. I guess I just didn't realize how big my little Gohan really is, she said. Please forgive your mother. I was just desperate. After losing your father, losing our farm, losing everything and having to start over in this city raising 2 boys alone, it's just so much, I just didn't know what to do. Oh, Mom, Gohan held his mother in a reassuring, comforting embrace. His eyes came to rest on the business card that the thug had dropped. He reached over and grabbed it, slipping it into his sleeve. Everything's going to be alright, he told her. Everything's going to be alright, I promise. Gohan leaned his head to the side against the window, and the low rumble of the train began to lull him to sleep. According to his GPS map, the loan shark, this Sarakin-san, operated in a financial center at the edge of the city, about a 30-minute ride by train. But what was Gohan going to do once he came face to face with Sarakin? Well, he wasn't completely sure, but he was already a few minutes away. His body seemed to be moving on instinct, more so than logic, but he had to try something. As he waited for his stop, the small screen in front of him flashed with breaking news. Fiery attack that has left the heart of Musutafu paralyzed, the reporter was saying. The sludge villain took a young student hostage and triggered various explosions, destroying property and putting lives in danger. The pro-heroes themselves seemed unable to stop it. Just as all hope seemed lost, an unexpected hero appeared. Gohan's eyes widened as a frail boy with messy green hair leapt out towards the sludge villain and began clawing away at it. His name is Izuku Midoriya. He is a quirkless boy who attends the same school as the hostage. Despite having no apparent powers, he attempted to save his friend from the slimy clutches of the sludge villain. Just as the villain was about to retaliate, hope arrived. All Might saved the day. The 2 boys were checked for injuries and released with minor scrapes and bruises. It all goes to show you that, as the old adage says, not all heroes wear capes. Reporting live from downtown Musutafu, I'm Kuri Shimamura. Gohan's eyes were glued to the image of the green-haired boy on the screen. So a quirkless boy really can be a hero. A soft series of tones brought him back from his thoughts. Now arriving at Terminal S, an automated voice said. With a sigh, Gohan got up and waited for the train doors to open. Advance Finance Center. The office that the infamous loan shark Sarakin-san operated out of lay at the heart of a large building that housed other financial services. Banks, remittance services, real estate and more. A figure wrapped in white robes nervously paced back and forth, unable to approach the building. It was so unlike him to be this nervous, but with one wrong move, all of this could go from bad to worse. Nobody had ever stood up to Sarakin-san before. The man had made a reputation for himself for his wealth and his cruelty. But still that hadn't stopped his reckless son from taking on a high-interest loan that ended up doubling over the years. Eventually, Sarakin took everything from them, and now the old man was going to get what he deserved. The loan shark had hired his own personal army of thugs to shake down his unpaying clients, and the strongest of them stuck to him like leeches, to protect him in his office. Fortunately for him, Sarakin only cared about quantity rather than quality, and he had made enemies out of a lot of powerful people. I'm not alone, he thought. His eyes caught movement from the shadows. On instinct, he reached into his pockets, but eased once he recognized the 3 figures in the dark. I take it you're all in, he muttered as he joined them in the shadow. Where's the big guy, Sludge? He got himself tangled up with All Might, of all people. We're gonna have to pull this one off without him. Good grief. Well, at least we won't have to worry about All Might showing up. Stick to the plan, gentlemen. This will all be over soon and we'll all go home a lot richer. How had it come to this? He wasn't a bad person, just got tangled up in some bad business. A part of him screamed for him to stop, to turn back and go home, knowing that even if they were successful, such a crime would change his life, sending him on the run at best, and at worst, send him straight to prison. How would his son go on without him? But there was no turning back now. No, this one was on Sarakin-san. This was for his family and all of the other families that had been exploited by the bastard. Yeah, today the old man was going to get what he deserved. As he walked back out of the shadows and onto the street, he stepped right into the path of a schoolboy. The two collided, but only the boy fell, the folder with papers in his hand falling and flying everywhere. "Watch where you're going, kid," he growled, but the boy was already chasing after the papers. "I'm so sorry," Gohan yelled back, collecting the pages and running off. "You picked the wrong day to visit old Sarakin-san," he said, gritting his teeth as the boy hurried off inside the building. He called the others with a single motion. "Let's go." Gohan only noticed his foot tapping nervously when an annoyed customer sitting in front of him cleared her throat loudly. "Sorry," Gohan apologized and sat up straight. He breathed in and out, trying to calm his beating heart. Why was he so nervous? Well, yes, partly it had to do with the fact that he was about to come face to face with the man that basically owned his family now with a crazy proposition he'd never accept. But it wasn't just that. There was a feeling that Gohan couldn't shake, all stemming from the encounter with the man in the white robes that he'd bumped into. No, it wasn't his green skin, nor his different clothes. What was it? As he sat on one of the leather seats that lined Advanced Finance, he let his eyes wander over the expensive decor that lined the walls, the elegant statues and the bright chandelier in the center of it all in an effort to distract himself from the pit in his stomach. Advanced Finance was located on the 7th floor of the building, and from there, large windows provided a view of the city below. Clearly, Sarakin didn't mind showing off his wealth and social status to anyone who came in. Gohan sighed and shook his head. He was so busy daydreaming when he should be thinking about what he was going to say to the loan shark. Still, what was it about that man that bothered him so much? "Look who's here," a loud, painfully familiar voice chimed, pulling him from his thoughts. It's the man from earlier, Gohan thought, the one who harassed Mom. It's the Sun Kid. I guess Sarakin was right. My fists really do make miracles happen. That's right, the other one chirped. Maybe we should pay his family a visit more often. I wouldn't mind taking a swing at that boy's mama myself, if you catch my drift. The two laughed. Gohan's teeth gritted and he felt heat rush to his ears. No, they're only trying to provoke me. If I take the bait, I won't even get a chance to talk to Sarakin. Gohan breathed in and out, calming himself, when the door opened and a secretary poked her head out. "Gohan-san, Sarakin-san will see you now. Don't you have a heart?" the thug said in a mocking tone as Gohan walked past them and entered the office. Sarakin-san was a heavy-set man. Reddish-orange hair that looped into a crazy receding hairline covered his head, and he looked down at Gohan with his piercing, cold green eyes. That's all that Gohan had time to notice as the man finally finished reading the paper that Gohan had handed him. "Is this a joke?" he spat out, closing the folder and slamming it onto the desk. "No sir," Gohan said, his head bowed in respect, hands to his side as he sat in front of Sarakin. "Why are you wasting my time, boy?" Sarakin bellowed. "Even if I did hire you, your mother's got a mountain of a debt with me. The kind of debt that takes years to get out of." "I know, sir, and I'm a fast learner and one of the top students in my class, surely." "You have no quirks, boy," Sarakin barked, coldly. "What the hell would I want with a quirkless mutt like you?" The words stung, but Gohan was determined not to give up. He stood and pushed the chair away, dropping to his knees with his head to the floor. "Please, Sarakin-sama. Just give me a chance. Everyone knows your reputation and your high standards. I know I can be an asset to you. Give me a job and I'll devote my entire life to paying off this debt. I'm begging you." Sarakin stared down at Gohan for a long moment, the contempt seemingly turning into amusement. "Oh really?" Sarakin's voice dropped to a predatory purr. He stood from his desk and walked over to Gohan, putting his foot down next to his head. "Go on, then," he said cruelly. "Beg." Gohan's eyes widened and he looked up at the man. Sarakin had a sadistic smile on his face. "I said beg, you quirkless dog. Show me how badly you want to work for me." Gohan's gaze lowered, completely humiliated, but for his family. He lowered himself to kiss the boot. The boot came up fast, connecting with Gohan's face and sending him onto his back. Sarakin laughed. "Like I would ever bring a worthless dog like you to my dining table," he said, ripping the employment contract and pressing a button on his desk. Two men in suits came in and to drag Gohan out of the office. "Take the trash out. And Gohan, tell your mommy her debt just went up another 30% because of this little stunt. That will teach you to stop putting your nose where it doesn't belong." Gohan stood on his own and shook off the thug's grip, wiping the blood off his nose with his sleeve, refusing to let the tears in his eyes fall. Without another word, he turned and walked out of the office. Outside in the lobby, he could feel the burning gaze of everyone on him. This beating had been more than punishment for angering Sarakin. He was sending a message to any who might have come seeking for his mercy. The words of his mother from this morning rang in his ears. That will only make things worse. "Oh Mom, Goten, I'm so sorry." As he headed for the door, the thug from earlier stepped out laughing. "Leaving so soon? Why, the fun is just beginning." And suddenly, the entrance of advanced finance erupted in a ball of flame. The force of the explosion sent Gohan and those gathered near the entrance flying. The fire tore at Gohan's body. His body slammed against a far wall, hard. The blow blurred Gohan's vision as he tried to pick himself up. The building shook and a large pillar tore from its place and fell, landing across Gohan's lap, pinning him down. He screamed in agony as more rubble and fire landed around him. Up ahead, the entire lobby was gone. The elegant drapes and statues were devoured by fire. Slowly, the ringing in his ears cleared, replaced by fire alarms and panicked screams, his and that of the people around him. Ahead, large tongues of flame licked away at the black hole that used to be the entrance. 4 silhouettes stepped out from the flames. Villains. A woman cried. "Torch, seal this place up. AK, round everyone up. Cannon, start bagging the loot." The lead villain motioned and the other villains got to work while he ran into the main office. Gohan gasped. "That's the man from the alley earlier. Everybody move in together and don't move a muscle," one of the villains, the one called AK, yelled, aiming the barrels in his fingers at them. Pain coursed through every cell in Gohan's body and he was convinced that his body had been crushed completely. But how am I still alive? From the edge of Gohan's vision he saw the people huddling together as AK aimed his finger guns at the terrified group. The main villain had disappeared into the office and the other two were going vault by vault, using their gun and fire quirks to break open the doors and stuff its contents into duffel bags. Outside, the police sirens were getting louder and louder and several heroes actually tried to break through, but each time they got closer, the fire barrier grew thicker, threatening to bring the building down on top of the hostages. With that, the heroes backed off, unable to penetrate the shield. Searing pain again, white hot. Gohan felt like he was going to pass out. It was getting so hard to breathe because of the flames that grew larger around him and also because of the suffocating pillar on top of him. The heat was intense and dizzying. Gohan could feel it running up his fingers. Wait, the heat. If he could still feel it with his hands, that meant. Gohan pulled his arms against the pillar. Intense pain shot up his arm, but he ignored it. Come on. Suddenly his left arm was free. Gohan pushed against the pillar with all of his might, screaming through his teeth both in pain and in desperation as the flames drew ever closer. Help the boy. One of the hostages pleaded with the AK. He's going to die. The villain glanced over at him, but kept his guns pointed at the hostages. Come on. Gohan gritted his teeth. Come on. There, the pillar shifted slightly, but that was all Gohan needed to free his right arm. By now, the flames reached Gohan and his clothes caught fire. Gohan slammed both of his hands against the pillar with cries of fear and desperation. This couldn't be it. His mother and little brother depended on him. This couldn't be the end. Gohan just couldn't die like this. Gohan's cries became animalistic howls as the flames engulfed him completely. Listen to him, he's dying, the secretary sobbed. The villain turned to aim all of his fingers at the woman that spoke up. Shut up, woman, he yelled. Please help him, another elderly man cried. I said shut up. The eyes of all of the hostages widened together in fear and awe as the pillar that had once trapped the young man was now flying in the air. It flew across the room and slammed into the villain before he even had time to register what was going on. Before them, where a young schoolboy once lay dying, now stood a blazing figure. Fire had consumed most of his clothes and pure energy flowed out of his body in bright white waves. His skin glowed in a magnificent white aura and static flowed through his body. Gohan stared at his hands and at the sheer power flowing from within him. What is this? Is this a quirk? My body is completely intact. No, more than intact. I feel stronger than ever. How can this be? What is that? Torch said. He's dead, Cannon responded, dropping the duffel bag he was filling. A large cannon barrel appeared from his elbow. Another gun quirk. He took aim. Gohan turned towards him, but before he could react, the cannon went off, the projectile whistling through the air and landing square on Gohan's chest. The missile exploded, and a wave of fire washed over Gohan. But the fire wasn't burning him. In fact, it wasn't even touching him. The aura around him protected his skin, Gohan realized. The villains looked like they saw a ghost. Terrified, Cannon charged up another missile to shoot at Gohan. Gohan took what he thought was a step forward, and suddenly he had closed the distance between them. The villain was now moving exaggeratedly slow. No, I'm moving extremely fast. Gohan brought a fist up, and missed. But the wind force was so strong that it knocked the villain against the vault, hard enough to tear through the vault door. He crumpled to the floor and did not get back up. This would have ended quick and peacefully, said the Torch as he helped AK get out from underneath the pillar. Gohan turned to see them take aim at the crowd of hostages. The hostages cried in terror and Gohan could see, again in slow motion, as their gun quirks rotated to fire onto the crowd. They were too far apart. Even if he could reach one of them on time, the other would be able to hurt many before he got to him. Wait, Gohan thought. The wind force. Maybe the wind force will be enough to reach them. Gohan leapt forward, using all of the newfound strength in his legs and reached out, visualizing the wind force, willing it to become an extension of his arm, aiming it squarely at the two villains. But what came out wasn't wind force. Gohan's palm glowed with power and 5 powerful blasts of energy shot out from his open palm, shooting off in the direction of the villains. In the blink of an eye, the blasts made contact, sending the two villains flying through the great wall of flames and out of the building, where they landed unconsciously at the feet of the police and the heroes outside. Gohan was amazed, terrified and confused all at the same time. What's happening to me? This is insane. I'm quirkless. The hostages themselves stared at him in awe. He did it, one of them gasped. He saved us. What is he? Someone asked. This young man's a damn hero, is what he is, the elderly man said. Wait, the secretary cried. Where's Sarakin-san? Gohan rushed over, fighting for control of his newfound quirk. He was insanely fast, reaching the office door with a single dash. He gasped. Sarakin's head was pinned firmly under the boot of the one Gohan assumed was the boss villain. You're the one making all the fuss, the villain said, digging his heel on Sarakin's head. Sarakin howled in pain. At least he's alive, Gohan thought. That's good. So it is you, Gohan said, trying to keep the green villain talking. Wait, the villain said. I know you. Yes, you're the Blur, but how is that possible? This puzzled Gohan. He knows me. Let him go, Gohan yelled. The villain looked genuinely surprised. But how? You're supposed to be dead. I don't know what you're talking about, Gohan gritted his teeth. I'm not who you think I am. Suddenly, Gohan felt a twinge of nausea. What was happening to him? His muscles began to tremble. Your fire barrier is down and all of your buddies are defeated, Gohan said. It's only a matter of minutes before the pro heroes get here, so just let him go. No, I'm sorry, but no, he owes me and the families of Namek a debt he can only pay in blood. You don't have to do this, Gohan pleaded. You'll be throwing your life away for nothing. I'm gladly throwing my life away to rid Japan of scum like him. Loan sharks who prey on the weak and helpless, feeding them false hopes only to take what little they do have. I know this all too well. Sarakin grunted under the weight of the brown boot. Damn you, Nail. After all I did to help you and your father. Nail slammed his boot against Sarakin's shoulder, crushing it. Sarakin howled in pain. You did plenty, and now because of you, we're losing everything. But life is balance. And now, because of me, you will have nothing. Nail, Gohan raised his hands harmlessly, trying to get his attention. I know. Oh yeah? What do you know, Blur? Have you ever watched your kid go to bed starving? You ever watched your old man die from absolute exhaustion? Have you ever been homeless? Because if you have, then maybe you know what it's like. Gohan could hear a faint echo to Nail's words. His head was starting to spin. I'm sorry, Nail, but you're wrong. I do know what you're going through, because that's what happened to us, too. This made Nail stop. Gohan took a step forward and suddenly felt very weak. The steady electricity that had been flowing through him began to dissipate and an intense fatigue began to blanket him. What's wrong with me? Why am I so dizzy all of a sudden? Was I just running on pure adrenaline? Gohan swallowed against the dizziness and continued. Nail watched him suspiciously. Sarakin has taken everything from me and my family as well. My dad died when I was very little and my mom had to take care of me and my brother alone. Men like Sarakin pretended to want to help, but they took what little food we had out of the mouths of my mother and little brother. So I know what it's like. The desperation of being caught at a dead end. To have nowhere to go, nobody to turn to for help. To watch your family starve and suffer because of someone else's exploitation. I know your pain, Nail, because it is my own. Nail stared at him for a moment, taking it all in. In his eyes, Gohan could see that Nail didn't have the same look as the others. Nail was a victim of the same people that exploited and took advantage of those who were less fortunate, like him and Nail. But Gohan could see beyond that stored fear, anger and pain. He could see the goodness in his eyes. Nail, please, Gohan pleaded. Just put him down and go home. Nail's eyes softened for a moment. You're right, he said. You're not the Blur. Who are you? I am Gohan's son, just a quirkless boy begging you do the right thing. Nail's eyes widened briefly. Gohan? So you're the Blur's kid, huh? My brother thought you had died alongside the Blur that day, all those years ago. If only he knew. This caught Gohan off guard. What did you just say? He asked. Nail reached over and grabbed one of the duffel bags stuffed with cash and threw it with so much force that it pierced through the roof of the building. No, Sarakin howled. My money. How about I make you a deal, Gohan's son? Take that money. Get the hell out of here. Buy yourself and your family a new identity. Because what's coming is terrifying and unstoppable and you don't want him to find out you're still around. And with that, the tables had turned, and now it was Nail who was in control of the situation. This opportunity won't repeat itself. Either take the money and skip town, or save him. With that, Nail's arms elongated and Sarakin screamed as he was lunged out of the office and through the glass window. "Be seeing you around, Gohan-san," Nail said with a smile and disappeared from the hole in the roof. Gohan wasn't even thinking. His legs were already moving and before he could stop himself, he had dived through the window. As his foot left the ledge, he felt the last vestiges of the mysterious power surge disappear. Still, he had to try to save Sarakin. He twisted his body in midair and made his arms and legs as stiff as he could. This propelled him forward, just in time to wrap his arms around Sarakin and twist his body to land on his back. The next instant, they landed, cratering into the asphalt down below. Gohan struggled to breath, but to his relief, there was nothing broken, although the rough landing had knocked Sarakin out cold. The medics and heroes rushed them towards them as Gohan laid his head back down on the carpet of grass and his spinning world turned dark. Amid the darkness, Gohan began to dream a feverish nightmare. At long last, the blur, the monstrous voice said, "You've no idea how long I've waited for this moment. Go. Get my kid out of here, we'll hold him off. But I can help you, please. Goku, forgive me." Is that fear I sense in your voice? Ah, what happened to the smile? Don't you know that such a delicious quirk should be shared? And now, you're mine. Daddy. Run, Gohan. Run, it's going to be, alright, kid. Everything is going to be, alright. Dad? Where's my daddy? And you wanna know why? Because I am here. I am here to teach this year. That rhymed, unintentionally. The soft volume coming from the hospital TV and the soft footsteps of the nurse woke him up from his nightmare. "All might?" Gohan said in his waking voice. "Not quite, though they do say all healthcare workers are heroes." "Hi there," the nurse gave him a warm smile. "Did you have a bad dream?" Gohan still wasn't sure where he was, other than in a hospital. He nodded and his neck felt a bit sore. "You had quite the scare. You fell 7 stories and landed squarely on your back. Amazingly, no injuries." "None?" Gohan blinked. "So my powers are real? I really have a quirk?" "Your X-rays show that you're quirkless," the nurse was saying. "So either you have a guardian angel or you're just that lucky. In any case, we'd like to keep you overnight for observation." "Yeah, that'd be great," Gohan said. "Fat chance, Mom will kill me." "Wait," he said. "What about Sarakin-san and everyone in Advanced? Is everyone okay?" A grim expression came over her face and her mouth thinned into a line. "Most got by with minor injuries, but Sarakin-san himself was really injured, and right now he's in a medically induced coma. It doesn't look like he has any recollection of what happened in the past 3 months. But unfortunately some of his employees were killed in the fire." Gohan lowered his head. "So the thugs didn't make it?" "Oh," he said. "Hey, cheer up. You saved his life. There's at least that, right?" Gohan nodded. "I guess. He must have been someone really special for you to jump after him like that." "Yeah," Gohan sighed with a smile. "Sure. Well, I'm feeling a bit sleepy, so I'd like to lay my head down for a little longer, if that's okay." "Of course," the nurse said. She turned off the light and closed the door to his room as she walked out. Gohan laid his head back down and as soon as he could no longer hear her, he took off the monitoring equipment and jumped out of bed. Of course, his clothes had all burned up in the fire, so all he had was the hospital gown and his wallet. To his surprise, there was an envelope for him with a get well soon card. It had been unsigned. Gohan carefully opened it. "Why do heroes fall? So they can rise again. Get well soon." A photo fell out from the envelope and Gohan's mouth dropped. Standing next to All Might, wearing a bright orange GI, was his father, Goku. The two shared a firm handshake, smiling at the camera. "My dad was a pro?" Gohan turned the photo and saw a tiny message written in black ink. "Who is the blur?" followed by coordinates. Clearly, whoever sent this letter knew who Gohan was and was trying to talk with him personally. Could it be Nail? Taking these things, Gohan opened the window and was about to jump through when he heard it. "I am here to teach this year." The TV was replaying the commercial from earlier. All Might stood, the mountain of a man rocking a mustard yellow pinstriped suit. That rhymed, unintentionally. "Do you want to protect the innocent? Does your heart yearn for peace and justice? Do you have special quirks that need help developing? At UA High, we pride ourselves." Gohan stared at the commercial. "All Might, you can schedule your spot in the entrance exams by phone or online. So don't delay and don't doubt yourself. Remember, you can be anything if you take the next step and go beyond, plus ultra." With that, the short commercial was over. Gohan stared at his palms. The fact that he was even uninjured was definite proof that at the very least his body was changing rapidly. That surge of strength back there. That power. The speed, durability, and the blast attacks. Could Uehai teach me master this new quirk? Maybe if... Suddenly the door opened and the nurse came in. I'm sorry, she was saying. Silly me. You wanted to nap and I left the TV on. But the room was already empty. The afternoon sun brushed the sky with orange and yellow hues. The cool breeze blew Gohan's hair into his eyes and he swept it back with a quick motion of his left hand, steadying his body against the wall with his right arm. Slowly, he inched his way across the ledge until he reached the edge of the hospital building. He climbed across the corner and out of sight just as the nurse poked her head out of the window of his room. That was too close, Gohan thought. His mother had no idea where he was at this hour. As far as she knew, Gohan had gone straight to school. If she finds out I skipped school and got involved in the attack on the loan shark, she's going to finish me off. And if she finds out about my new quirk, I have to make it home as quickly as possible. He stared at the grassy hills below and gulped. This was it. This was the only area secluded from the busy street. Beyond the parking lot, the hospital had maintained the woods to provide a shady, relaxing atmosphere where patients and employees could relax. If he was going to make his escape, this would have to be the spot. Another gust of wind brushed at Gohan's clothes and hair. He gulped down his nervousness, staring at the grass below, steadying his breath. Logic screamed at him to stop at once, to go back to his room and find a safer way down. No, this is a chance to test my new power, Gohan thought. If I survived a jump from 7 stories then 3 shouldn't be a problem, right? Gohan inhaled and exhaled, wiping the nervous sweat forming on his brow. Well, he said to himself as he bent his knees and readied the balls of his feet, here goes nothing. Gohan dropped to a squat and propelled himself as hard as he could, aiming for the grassy area where he had intended to land, several yards beyond the parking lot, and then watched as he flew up and over the woods with intense speed and force that shattered the ledge where he had jumped from. Gohan's surprise instantly turned into panic as he flew uncontrollably through the afternoon sky, clearing the woods and the row of houses that lined the next street. Gohan screamed as his body arched into a descent, directly towards a used car sales lot. Oh crap. Oh crap. Gohan flung his arms in futility as he fell straight down. No, 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 no. The next moment, Gohan's body landed on top of one of the parked cars, crushing the entire roof of the car down. The force of the impact made the rest of the parked car's alarms start to blare and the electricity from the sales building was knocked out. Gohan laid there for a few moments, both amazed and perplexed at the power he had just witnessed. Unlike last time, this time Gohan felt all of the pain on his back. I have a quirk. Gohan cried with tears in his eyes, tears of joy and pain. I have a quirk. Chapter 2. The journey that lies ahead. Gohan stood in the shower, refreshed by the cool water running down his body. He still felt bad about leaving the car absolutely destroyed back at the used car sales lot, but right now, he couldn't afford to get into any more trouble. Luckily, he had managed to slip back home unnoticed. His mother had already gone to pick up Goten from the train station, so nobody had noticed the half-naked boy ditching the hospital gown down the alley and slipping into his apartment. Shutting the shower off, Gohan changed and finally threw himself into bed. Usually the stiff mattress gave him stiff neck problems, but right now it was like resting on a cloud. He sighed, tired. His gaze landed on the framed photo on the wall of him and his parents. Dad. Gohan pulled out the photo from the get well soon card. Goku had the same, childish grin that Gohan remembered. In reality, Gohan had very few memories of his father. After all, Goku had died in a horrible accident when Gohan was only 8 years old. Much of what he remembered about his father were just snapshots in time. Goku's puppy love way of looking at Chi-Chi, his voracious appetite, his uncanny ability to make friends out of everyone, and his ability to never get sick. For a quirkless guy, Goku had been an amazing father. But now that Gohan had discovered that he did have a quirk, then had Goku really been quirkless, after all? If All Might had really known his father, maybe he could tell him more about him. Had Dad actually worked as a pro hero before? And if he did Mom know about this? Gohan's breathing slowed and he allowed himself to finally fall asleep after the very long and peculiar day he'd just had. The last thing on his mind before he drifted off to sleep were the words on the back of the photograph. Who is the blur? Sobbing uncontrollably, Gohan blinked, suddenly aware of the lucidity of the dream. The child in front of him curled up into a ball, his back against a stone wall, his head buried in his lap, his tiny shoulders leapt with each sob. Daddy, the little boy sobbed. Gohan tried to comfort the crying child, but when he tried to speak, his voice rang hollow. He reached for the child's shoulder. At his touch, the child's head lifted and to Gohan's horror, his irises were missing. The whites of the child's eyes narrowed viciously at him, his sobs turning into enraged howls. And suddenly Gohan was awake, breathing heavily and sweating bullets. What a crazy dream. He blinked a few times, catching his breath before he heard sobbing. He tucked the photo of his father under his pillow and turned in his bed to see his little brother burst in through the door, crying. Goten. Gohan mumbled. Hey, little guy, what's wrong? You stay in your room for the rest of the day and think about what you did. Chi-Chi was barking angrily at Goten. The child quickly climbed up to his bunk and threw the covers over his head, crying. Mom, what happened to Goten? Gohan asked. He and his little friend got into a fight with some boys at school. I knew that boy would be a bad influence on you. Goten. Gohan crossed his arms. Why were you and Trunks picking fights at school? We weren't picking fights, Goten said in between sobs. It was Tamashiro and Takuto. They stole my new lanyard. They're nothing but no good bullies. Then why didn't you tell one of your teachers? They never do anything, the kid sobbed. Those two have been bullying us since the first day of school and I can't do anything because I don't have a quirk. But Trunks has a powerful quirk. He stands up to them. He said that's what heroes do. They stand up to bullies and fight back. And that's why Trunks is my hero. Chi-Chi said. That's it, I don't care how rich that little brat's family is, you're not allowed to go anywhere near him. But Mom. No buts, Goten, and that's final. Mom. Gohan placed an arm on her shoulder, trying to be the voice of reason. Don't you think that's a little harsh? It isn't Goten's fault that they're getting bullied. I just want what's best for Goten, Chi-Chi responded. I don't want him going around playing heroes versus villains and learning to beat other students up. I don't want him to be around that little delinquent so he can grow up to be a violence-loving strength-obsessed brawler like your father was. Chi-Chi bit back, but it was too late. Gohan opened his mouth to respond, but gulped back a response and the comment had seemingly gone over Goten's head. Mom, it's late and you must be tired, Gohan said with a warm, calming voice. Why don't we let Goten sit here and think about what he's done? Let me make you some tea and we can relax and talk about this later. Chi-Chi closed her eyes with a sigh. Some tea would be great, she said with a tired smile. She turned and left, and Gohan followed, but before he closed the door, he winked at Goten and gave him a thumbs up. Still sobbing, Goten gave him a tearful smile and a thumbs up back. I'm concerned about Goten, Mom, Gohan said as he poured the fresh tea into a cup for his mother. If he's really having issues with bullies at school, I think it would be a good idea to talk to his teachers and maybe even with the bullies' parents. He just needs to learn to shrug it off and focus on his studies, Chi-Chi said. Why can't he be more like you? She said. More like me? Studious, obedient, calm. Goten has this storm inside of him that he can't seem to get under control. He's got too much of his father in him, that's for sure. Gohan stirred the tea with the teaspoon in thought. Do you miss him? He said finally. Dad. I just found out that he was a pro. No, I can't bring that up just yet, not so soon after that comment she made. Must be a sensitive topic for her. I just miss him so much, he said, instead. He had his flaws, for sure, Chi-Chi said. But I loved him and he loved you, Gohan. That's what really mattered, in the end. It's hard to believe it's almost been 7 years since. The phone rang and broke the moment. Chi-Chi saw the number and excused herself, leaving the dining room to take the call. Gohan sat there drinking his tea and thinking about his newfound power. Had his father been just like him, quirkless, until his powers manifested later? His thoughts came back to what Goten had said earlier. That's what heroes do, they stand up to bullies. Dad, is that what happened to you? What? Chi-Chi's voice filled the room. That's amazing, yes, thank you very much. She hung up the phone and threw her arms around Gohan. Oh Gohan, it's so wonderful, a random stranger just paid off our loan from Sarakin-san. We're officially debt-free, isn't that great? Wow, that's great news, Mom. Gohan feigned surprise, hugging his mother tightly. Finally, some good news. I wonder who that random stranger could have been. Nail? His mind wandered back to the coordinates in the back of the photograph. The least I could do is go thank him. The next morning, Gohan woke up and thankfully there had been no nightmare this time. He went about his regular morning routine of getting his brother ready for school and walking him across the busy road towards the walkway that led to the train station. And then Takuto jumped up at him with his giant snapping jaws quirk, but Trunks jumped around him and Tamashiro like a spiderweb, landing punches until they used up their quirk stamina and collapsed, and it was the coolest thing I've ever seen. Goten's arms shot around, imitating the move. Wow, sounds amazing, Gohan said as they entered the train station together. So what's his quirk? Super speed? Super strength? Well, he got his super intelligence quirk from his mom, but he got an agility quirk from his dad. So he's super smart and super strong. That does make for an awesome combination. But what about you, Goten? What about me? Have you noticed anything about yourself? Anything different? Gohan had to be really careful here. He knew that if Goten had manifested a quirk, he could trust Gohan enough to tell him. At the same time, there was no guarantee that Goten would have a quirk at all, and giving him false hope would be cruel. But still. Well, I grew 3 inches taller, Goten said. And I can burp the loudest in the class. Well, those certainly are pretty cool talents, Gohan laughed, suppressing a sigh. Goten, if you could have a quirk, any quirk, what would it be? Goten thought for a moment and then a childish smile formed on his face. Oh, that's easy, I would be Trunks. Oh, okay, so super smart and super strong? No, I mean I literally want to be Trunks. With our combined quirks we'd be unstoppable. Well, that's unique, Gohan said. Wait, what do you mean with your combined quirks? You, Goten. The two turned to see a lavender-haired boy fly up to them and land in front of Goten. Trunks, Goten said happily. I hope you didn't get into too much trouble yesterday. Trunks brushed his hair back, stuffing his other hand into the pocket of his yellow hoodie. The hoodie did a poor job of concealing his black eye. Yeah, Mom was pretty pissed and she grounded me or whatever. What about you? My mom says you're a delinquent and I'm not allowed to be friends with you anymore, Goten said, with a beaming smile. Lame, Trunks made a face and clenched his small fist. Come on, let's go to class. Don't worry, those punks won't mess with you anymore. Goten turned to Gohan, his face pleading for permission. Gohan sighed. Obviously, Trunks was just looking out for Goten. It's not like the two were going around picking fights. And it was kind of nice that Goten had such a good friend like Trunks, a friend who looked out for him and was willing to get in trouble just to help him out. Okay, but don't be late. And no more fighting. Yes, the two boys started to leave and Gohan began to turn when suddenly, Trunks' azure eyes turned sharply to stare at him. Wait, he said. Do you feel that? The stare was as cold as ice, and for a moment it unnerved Gohan. Goten seemed completely oblivious to whatever had caught Trunks' attention. A mischievous smile formed across Trunks' lips. Geez, mister, I can tell you're really strong. What do you mean by that? Gohan laughed it off. Oh crap, Goten was right. This little brat really is super smart. I can feel your power level. Well, I started doing yoga, Gohan chuckled nervously. How in the world did this kid know? Nah, that's not it. Your power level's stupid strong, just like my old man's. I've been doing a lot of yoga. Trunks stared at him, then at Goten who was still clueless. Suddenly the train that took them to their school arrived and the doors opened. Oh, I see, Trunks said and shrugged. Forget it. Go twist your foot over your neck or something. Come on, Goten. Bye, Gohan. The two entered the train and after a few minutes, the doors closed and the train sped off, and Gohan let out a sigh of relief. That was close. What an interesting character, that Trunks. And what did he mean by power level? A few moments later, the train that led to his high school came and went, but Gohan wasn't planning on going to school. With the coordinates in hand, he boarded the train to his true destination, a city he'd never been to before called Namek. The rumble of the train woke him up and Gohan immediately saw that he was in a completely different place. Gone were the students, day laborers, and the night shift workers, replaced by drunks, yakuza and men with scantily dressed women under their arms. Oh, what do we have here? One of the women that boarded the train purred, sitting close to him. Did someone miss their terminal on their way to school? Gohan instantly felt uncomfortable and got up to leave. If you're looking for a date, I can be a schoolgirl for you, hun. No thanks, Gohan called back as he left the train. Be like that then. Namek was like nothing that Gohan had seen before. He'd heard of the famous, red light, pleasure districts like Shinjuku, Kamino and Kabukicho, but Namek was a completely different animal. Around him, filthy rich people cruised around in flashy cars full of women. Seedy deals were made in dark alleys and around every corner there seemed to be police officers arresting somebody. This is definitely not a place I should be in, Gohan thought to himself, instinctively tightening his grip on his backpack. Oh, Gohan, what the heck are you doing? He followed the coordinates in his radar and they led him down a winding path in between the buildings. The loud booming music from the hostess bars around them rumbled alongside the walls. It should be here. Gohan looked up to see 3 men in suits walking towards him. Oh crap. Sorry, I got lost, Gohan said, stepping back. I'm just looking for a friend. What's in the bag? One of them motioned towards Gohan's backpack. Books and papers, Gohan said nervously. Open it up and let's see it. They roughly took Gohan's backpack and emptied its contents onto the street. The wind blew the papers away and Gohan groaned. Well, there goes my pre-algebra homework. Shut up, kid, the man said. Nobody gets into Papaya Island without going through the screening first. Papaya Island? Gohan suppressed a laugh. The man was acting way too tough to be working at Papaya Island. Relax Nitro, he's with me, came a familiar voice. Out of the door was Nail. His white, sleeveless robes and antennae swayed with the breeze. Gohan, so nice of you to finally stop by. He motioned with his neck and Gohan followed him inside. I half expected you to die after jumping from a 7-story building. How did you manage that, by the way, being that you're just a quirkless boy? Gohan shrugged. Apparently, I'm not. You know, you saved a lot of people that day. Not all of them. Some of them died in the fire that your friends started. No, they didn't, Nail said, shaking his head. Those guys were tired of working for a low-level scumbag like Sarakin. Who do you think let us in? After that, my brother gave them and their families new identities and brought them here, to Papaya Island, the paradise. They entered and Gohan saw the scope of what Papaya Island really was. An underground resort of some kind, filled with bars, restaurants, entertainment centers, and hotels, though Gohan refused to think about what they were being used for. What is this place? Back in its day, Papaya Island was a run-of-the-mill martial arts hall, but my brothers really turned things around and made this into a place where people can have a great time and stay as long as they need to. So, why did you bring me here, Nail? What does this have to do with me or my father? And more importantly, how do you know my father? Nail smiled and shrugged. Valid questions. The short answer is, I never met your dad. By the time I moved here, your dad had already died, but I had come to admire him and the kind of hero he was. And by the way my brother talked about him, I became something of fanboy of the Blur. What do you mean, the kind of hero he was? Well, let me introduce you to my brother and I'm sure he can answer all of your questions. That is what you want, right Gohan, son of the Blur? Gohan breathed deeply. Here he was in a casino owned by 2 criminals, that catered to basic fleshly instincts where no soon-to-be high school student should be. Part of him screamed for him to turn back to the comfort of normality and the routine, to just focus on being a good older brother and son, and to focus on his studies. But no, he could never go back. The door had been opened and he had to choose now whether to go through it or not. Okay, he said. Take me to him. Nail took him across the labyrinth of casinos, restaurants and bars. Slowly, a chorus of cheers and roars began to fill the air. Now, I know it's going to be a lot to take in, Nail said as they reached the door. My brother's a special kind of person and you're going to have to stand out to get his attention. But I'm sure once he knows who you are, he won't have a problem talking to you. Okay, the doors opened and the roar of hundreds of people poured out. The people cheered, ate and drank from the stands that surrounded a large fighting ring in the middle of the room. In the ring, a mountain of a man towered over his opponent, his fists raining down on his enemy until he was beaten to a pulp. Woo. I know, Nail said. The World Martial Arts Tournament is Papaya Island's biggest event. Watch your step. The crowd loved the show and the giant man roared at his defeated opponent. An announcer with sunglasses and a microphone stood up in the middle of the ring, hyping everyone up. The winner and still undefeated champion, Rappa Kendoo. Is there nobody in the crowd tonight brave enough to take on the Rappa? Or are we going to see another repeat of the last few years? Gohan, hey, Gohan, come on. Gohan followed Nail as he waded through the drunken crowd, making his way up to a balcony that overlooked the ring. There, a tall man watched the fight silently. As they approached him, Gohan could see that the man looked exactly like Nail, down to the green skin and antennae. The man was accompanied by a beautiful woman with orange hair who clung onto his left arm. Oh, look, darling, she squealed with delight. It's Nail. Long time no see, hun. Miss Pizza, glad to see you again. Taking good care of my brother? Ice cold like my drinks, the woman said, just the way I like 'em. Brother, how long has it been? Nail called out, extending a right hand to the taller man. The other man glanced down at his hand, then back at Nail without a word. Oh, sorry, I forgot. Nail withdrew his right hand and put out his left. What do you want, Nail? You're wasting my time, the man said, coldly. There was a steely edge to his voice that made Gohan wince. You're not going to believe who I found, brother. Does this kid look familiar to you? Gohan shivered under his icy glare. No, hello, sir, Gohan said, introducing himself and bowing respectfully. My name is Gohan's son. Please, may I ask you a few questions about my father Goku, the Blur? I heard you knew him. The man's breathing became audible and his eyes narrowed. What is this? He said, turning to Nail. This is Gohan, son of the Blur. His breathing became enraged seething and his eyes pierced through Gohan and Nail. Get out, he said through gritted teeth, but Piccolo. Now, Gohan's cheeks burned. He had not expected this type of reaction from someone who supposedly had known his father. I skipped school and rode a train for 3 hours to get here, to get some answers, he told Nail, and I'm not going home until I have them. Without another word, Gohan turned and made his way down to the ring. Kid, what are you doing? Making myself stand out. Gohan gave him a half smile, walking towards the announcer. My name is Gohan, he said loudly, and I challenge Rappa Kendoo to a cage match. The crowd broke into laughter at this. Gohan, what do you think you're doing? Nail grabbed Gohan's arm forcefully. You're just a kid, Rappa's been the king of this ring for years. He'll pulverize you. Well, you said I had to stand out, right? Look, that definitely caught his attention. Gohan smiled. Nail shook his head. I sure hope you know what you're doing. Finally, someone with some backbone. Rappa Kendo howled. I accept your challenge, skinny punk. Come down here so I can tear you apart. The crowd cheered and chanted in drunken stupor as Gohan climbed onto the ring. Large metal cages dropped down, covering all sides so that nobody could escape from the ring. As the bouncers tied the cage with metal chains, Gohan dropped down to a stretch, looking up at Piccolo with a confident smile. Piccolo's eye twitched for an instant. Foolish child, he said, are you really so reckless? Well yeah, just watch me, Gohan said cheerfully. But after I fight him, you have to promise me you'll answer my questions. Piccolo stared at him, eyes narrowed. Fine, fine. Nail argued. You're actually letting this schoolboy go through with this? By the looks of it, this boy needs to be taught a lesson. And after Rappa tears this fraud apart, you're both leaving and never coming back. Nail glared at his brother, then turned back to Gohan, who was warming up for the fight. Good luck, kid, he yelled. Don't get killed just yet. Alright, Gohan thought to himself. I've gotten myself into worse situations. Just gotta end this quickly. Gohan's hands balled into fists and he brought them up in an awkward and untrained stance. Rappa stared for a moment, confused, before bursting into laughter. Don't tell me you've never been in a fight before, Skinny, he laughed. A few, mostly with my 7-year-old brother, Gohan said, smirking. And an old lady just outside that I had to fight the last takoyaki for. But how hard can it be, right? Hey, Rappa brought his enormous fists up. I like you, Skinny. Just for that, I won't break every bone in your body. All I ask is that you leave my face alone, Gohan quipped, for my mother. 6 large floodlights came on, illuminating the entire ring. It was blinding for a moment, and Gohan shielded his eyes with his arm. The bell rang and suddenly Rappa was on top of him. 2 large, meaty fists rained down and impacted against the empty floor where Gohan once stood. What the? Rappa yelped, staggering forward. Missed me there, big fella, Gohan said. Rappa turned in time to see Gohan flip towards him. His right leg shot out in a powerful kick that sent Rappa against the bars. The giant man fell to one knee and Gohan landed clumsily on his toes in front of him. A streak of red ran down Rappa's nose and he wiped at it. Seeing his own blood, a crazed smile formed on Rappa's lips. Now this is more like it, he growled. Slamming his fists on the ground, he forced himself up. Gotta end this quick. Gohan thought to himself and swung forward with a punch, aiming for Rappa's chin. Rappa took the punches squarely in the jaw, the impact sending gusts of wind, fanning the roar of the crowd around them. Come on, big guy, Gohan gritted his teeth, punching away at Rappa's face with all of his strength. Go to sleep. But instead, Rappa put his hands together and brought them up under Gohan's chin. Gohan's teeth sank into his tongue, a burst of iron filling his mouth as he staggered back from the sudden attack. My turn, Rappa squealed with delight. Oh, great. So much for ending this quickly. Gohan was barely able to lift his arms up to block when Rappa's powerful fists landed against them. It was like trying to stop an incoming bus with your bare arms. Gohan gritted his teeth and planted his feet down on the ring, but it was no use. Rappa's momentum-less punches incrementally became harder and faster. Gohan felt himself beginning to get pushed back. Not good, Gohan thought. Okay, I have to change it up or I'm toast. Rappa delivered a powerful blow that sent Gohan flying back. Okay, big guy, let's try this, then. Goten, this one's for you. Gohan used the force of the blow to flip himself, landing on the bars with his feet. The blow stung, but he pushed all of his strength down to his legs, gathering it on the balls of his feet, just like when he jumped out of the hospital building. The next instant Gohan shot forward like a bullet towards the incoming Rappa. His fist connected against Rappa's forehead, who staggered back. It worked. Now I just have to keep pushing until I can knock him out. Gohan immediately leapt away, backflipped and repeated the move. Slowly, his attacks began to speed up until he was zipping around the ring, punching Rappa and then leaping safely out of his range. Just like a spiderweb, like Goten said. Up on the balcony, Piccolo and Nail watched the fight intently. Miss Pizza brought over 2 bottles to where Piccolo was standing. What do you think, hun? She said. The ménage à trois or the 5-star? Piccolo didn't respond. He stood there, silently watching as the boy in the ring leapt and dodged around the mountain of a man that was chasing him, landing the occasional blow then leaping away. Sloppy, Piccolo muttered. His footwork is sloppy, his stance is inconsistent, his punches are wild and untrained. Miss Pizza blinked several times before smiling widely. Well, looks like somebody other than Rappa or myself finally caught your eye, she said, settling with the 5-star and pouring herself a glass. This new move, its speed and intensity, it's almost like he's just a blur? Nail smiled next to him, his arms crossed. Piccolo glared up at him, then turned his attention back down to the ring. Down in the ring, Rappa roared, annoyed. Stop running and fight me, you annoying little fly. I almost have him. Gohan flipped again, and pushed himself from the bars, propelling himself with all of his might towards Rappa from behind. And suddenly a jolt of pain and nausea rocked Gohan's body. Oh no, what the heck is happening to me? Rappa noticed this and leapt away as Gohan landed on the ring with a thud. Piccolo's eyes widened for an instant, then narrowed. Gohan. Nail called out. Gohan's world began to spin and he propped himself onto his elbows. His stomach threatened to empty itself. No, please, not now. The roar of the crowd only made the nausea worse. Gohan squeezed his head with his hands, in an effort to make the world stop spinning. Rappa immediately seized on the opportunity and ran towards the fallen teen. Gohan felt the heavy footsteps stomping towards him and jumped back onto his feet, bringing his arms up in a block, but Rappa was already on him, his iron fists hammering away at Gohan's crossed arms, undeterred. The pit in Gohan's stomach by now had become a black hole and he could feel his lunge threatening to come rushing out. His dizzying world was beginning to spin beyond his control. Rappa's fists rained down on him mercilessly. Can't lose. I have to keep going. Gohan swallowed his lunch back down and leapt forward. I can't give up. Not when I'm so close. But his legs were practically noodles at this point and his fist flew wide of its target. You put up one hell of a fight, kid. Rappa easily sidestepped Gohan's attack and slammed his huge elbow down on Gohan's spine. Gohan cried as the blow slammed his body against the ring floor with such force that he bounced back. Rappa grabbed foot and spun him around. But this match is over. He threw Gohan's body against the cage. The crowd roared as the boy's body crumpled to the ring floor. Rappa raised his arms in a victorious howl, and the people roared again. Gohan, Dad. The power within you, it's yours. Give me your hand, son. Dad, Gohan yelled audibly, his hand reaching out. Rappa heard this and laughed. Oh, look at him, I think he's seeing the light from the other side. Or maybe he's just gone insane. Gohan pushed himself up weakly, hands still outstretched. Dad, you can do it, Gohan, give him everything you've got. Time to finish this. Rappa ran towards Gohan. Hand outstretched, Gohan felt all of his power flow to the palm of his hand, forming into an orb of intense light. The ball grew and grew until Gohan couldn't hold onto it anymore. The power within you is yours. His father's voice yelled again. Give him everything you've got. Scream it, Gohan. Scream it from the depths of your soul. Kamehameha. The room was engulfed in a bright flash of power, and Piccolo shielded Miss Pizza with his white cape. That was a Kamehameha wave. Piccolo shouted. The blast hit Rappa and distorted his body. Rappa screamed as the blast of energy coursed through him and blasted him through the bars of the cage and sent him smashing against the concession stand. When it was over, Rappa fell over in a charred heap, completely unconscious. What was that? The spectators whispered. What is he? A monster. Guys, look at Rappa. He's out cold. Gohan himself stared at the palm of his hand. How did I do that? The announcer quickly undid the locks and jumped into the ring. Winner by way of knockout and new world martial arts champion, Gohan's son. The crowd immediately broke into a cheer as the announcer held Gohan's arm up in victory. Above the ring, Piccolo let out a breath he didn't realize he had been holding. He put up a good fight, that's for sure, Miss Pizza commented with a smile, leaning against Piccolo's crossed arms. She smirked up at him when he ignored her. Wow, so you really do like him, don't you? She teased. He was the first one to beat Rappa. Didn't I tell you, brother? The boy is amazing. Nail smiled. Couldn't he possibly be the Gohan, son of the Blur, from all those years ago? Piccolo's eyes were glued onto the boy in thought. No, he said, almost to himself. He can't be. I held the boy in my arms as he died. But that massive power, and the Kamehameha wave, he couldn't possibly be, could he? Have the girls clean him up, Piccolo told a smirking Miss Pizza. Then afterwards, send him up to my office. I'll have a word with him. Right away, dear, Miss Pizza said. As Piccolo walked away, he couldn't help but feel his heart stir with excitement ever so slightly. Could it really be you, kid? 7 years ago, another explosion, much greater than the last, hit and filled the air with debris and ash. Black clouds of smoke darkened the skies above. Thousands of screaming voices at the center of the blast fell silent as the fire devoured everything. The broken man ran with what little energy he had left, leaving a bloody trail behind. Through ragged breaths, Piccolo dove into the alley of a crippled wall, even as another mighty blast eviscerated the few buildings that still stood behind. In his left arm, wrapped in his stained white cape, was the body of the boy whose eyes were whitened. His tiny chest wrapped in an abnormal, non-rhythmic manner, gasping for air. The boy was dying. "Hang in there, Gohan," Piccolo pleaded, holding the boy to his chest, ignoring the trauma of his own loss. His right arm, cut off at the elbow, was hemorrhaging badly, and the massive blood loss was blurring his vision. As the building behind them crashed onto its side, it lifted a cloud of debris and smoke into the air, before finally settling. Clear of danger, Piccolo allowed himself a few gasps of fresh air before he pushed off and continued his run towards the evacuation center. He looked behind him and everything was set ablaze. Bodies littered the streets for miles, leading back to the epicenter of the blast. The battle was over. The war had been won, but at what cost? Goku, and All Might, and now Gohan too. All that was left now was the pounding explosions, chain reactions of the damage of the titanic battle that he had just witnessed. Fires raged and Piccolo could hear the faint whine of emergency sirens in the distance. The evacuation center wasn't much further ahead. The deafening sounds of the carnage behind faded into the incoming cacophony of wounded and dying evacuees. Nurses, police, medics and heroes, far too few of them, were stretched thin among the sea of the refugees fleeing. There were panicked calls for help, anguished wails of the wounded and dying, urgent directions from the medical staff, people calling out for their loved ones that had gone missing, and children wailing in despair. It was a hellish nightmare, unlike anything Piccolo had ever seen. He pushed his way through the panicked evacuees, calling for help from the medics, but his cries were muffled by all the rest. Piccolo pushed himself through the sea of bodies until he reached a nurse who was administering pain blockers to an older woman and practically threw the boy onto her arms. "Please," he yelled, "the boy is dying. Save the boy." The nurse pressed her fingers against the boy's neck, feeling for a pulse, but after a few minutes, she brushed Gohan's hair from his eyes and looked up at Piccolo sadly. "I'm so sorry," she said. Piccolo took the boy in his arms. That kind, brave, strong, happy child that he had come to know and befriend was gone, little more than a fragile frame in Piccolo's arm. "This can't be happening. He can't be gone. I was supposed to save him." "Hey," Piccolo called weakly, shaking the kid. Gohan's head slumped back limply. "Hey, kid, stop screwing around. Wake up, Gohan." But the boy was gone. To heal what's broken present time. "Hey," the voice cooed smoothly. "Wake up, cutie." Gohan slowly opened his eyes and to his relief, the queasy feeling in his stomach was gone. He felt much lighter and stronger than ever before, and also cleaner. Wait, cleaner? Where am I? The first thing he saw when he opened his eyes was a pair of large breasts in a black bikini top pressed against his chest, and he suddenly realized what was happening. His naked body floated in the warm, nicely scented onsen as the four girls in bikinis that were scrubbing at his body giggled together. The woman directly in front of him scrubbing his chest giggled at his coyness. "Don't be shy, hun. We'll get you clean in all the right places." "Where am I?" Gohan yelped, jumping out of the onsen, only to realize he was completely naked. His face flushed red and he quickly covered his manhood with his hands. "And what the heck happened to my clothes?" "Usually, the champions get the onsen all for themselves," a woman behind him said. "But in your case, the ring girls insisted in washing you down. Don't worry, you're in good hands. The girls are true professionals, isn't that right, ladies?" "Miss Pizza." Gohan recognized the woman in the red dress. "Well, I appreciate it, really, but I'm about as clean as I'm going to be. Could I at least get a towel or something? I'm a bit exposed here." "Hey, skinny." A loud voice boomed. A tower of a man came through the door. "Oh crap, it's that Rappa guy. He's probably mad that I beat him earlier. I got something to say to ya." The hulking monster stopped in front of Gohan and brought his arm back. Gohan braced himself and Rappa swung his arm forward into a thumbs up. "That was a killer fight. It's been years since I've had that much fun. Make sure to train well and get stronger because next tournament I'm definitely going to kill you." Gohan blinked, at a loss for words. "Oh okay, sure thing," he said. Miss Pizza laughed. "It looks like you've got a new fan," she mused and handed Gohan newly folded robes to change into. "Anyway, your clothes were too damaged to save, but you can take these and change in the locker room area. You'll find the bag you came here with there, as well. And when you're ready, head on up to Piccolo's office. He wants to have a word with you." "Bye, sweetie. Hope you enjoyed your bubble bath," the ring girl called as Gohan left. "Yep. Thank you very much. You better come back and see me again when you're a little older," she flirted. He gulped but kept walking, ignoring the heat at the back of his neck. "Okay, this is it," Gohan said to himself as he changed into the purple Namekian robes. A white, scarf-like collar wrapped around his neck and a red sash held it all together at his waist. The moment I've been waiting for. Gohan steeled himself, swung his bag over his shoulder and walked out of the locker room. Nail strode into Piccolo's office and dropped his bag on a chair, smiling reminiscently. "You left everything just the way it was," he said. "I didn't really think I'd ever see this place again." Piccolo removed his turban and cape and sat down behind the desk. "Don't give me that," he said, dismissively. "You're the one that turned down coming here in the first place, in favor of that homeless pit you now call home. How are the fine citizens of the new Namek housing project, by the way? I've heard they've gone from living in boxes to living in tents. Tisk, you still look down on them, but we've been able to help a lot of good people get back up on their feet." Nail shook his head. "But it hasn't been easy. There have been some refugees who have turned to a life of crime and led others astray with them. And then there's the fact that some of our sponsors, well, let's just say they didn't have the best interests of the people in mind." "So I heard," Piccolo mused. "And I take it that the attack on Advance Finance just happened to be a stroke of good luck, right? You almost threw away your life, and for what? To get even with some irrelevant bastard?" "He was threatening to take it all away," Nail argued. "And don't think for a second that I forgot what he did to our father." Piccolo gritted his teeth, but looked away. "What's done is done," Piccolo said, finally. "Just know that you made a lot of enemies that day." "Yes," Nail lowered his gaze. "I was such a fool." "Well, we finally agree on something," Piccolo smiled. "Alright, tell all of your folks they can come seek refuge here." Nail brightened up. "You mean it, brother?" Yeah, Piccolo waved his hand. "Winter is coming and we could use the help. But let them know they will be expected to work hard, for a generous payment, of course." "Great, I will, thank you so much." There was a soft rap at the door and Gohan entered. "Hi, it's me, Gohan. I heard you wanted to see me, Mr. Piccolo?" "Gohan." Nail placed his hands on his shoulders proudly. "That was an amazing fight. So that's the power of the mighty Kamehameha wave. What a sight it was to see." "I honestly don't really know how I did it," Gohan laughed nervously. Piccolo stared at him from behind the desk. "I will admit, you did catch my attention," Piccolo said, leaning back on his chair. "I still have my doubts, for personal reasons, as to who you claim to be. But let's just say you are son Gohan. How did you find this place and what do you think you'll find here?" "Oh, right," Gohan reached into his bag to produce the photograph. "While I was in the hospital, someone sent me this photograph with coordinates to this place on the back." "What?" Nail said excitedly. He grabbed the photograph to get a closer look. An actual photo of the Blur himself in all might. "Do you realize how rare this thing is? It's the first time I've seen the Blur in pictures, let alone next to the symbol of peace." Piccolo scoffed. "Yeah, the symbol of peace, right." "Wait," Gohan said. "You're telling me you're not the one who sent me that get well letter in the hospital, or paid off our loan to Advance Finance?" "No, why would I ever do that?" Nail asked incredulously, passing the photograph to Piccolo. "It seems there is a third party watching from the shadows," Piccolo said, standing and taking the photo to look at it. "Unlike All Might, Goku never wanted the fame and glory of being a hero. He would have refused to pose for this picture." "So you did know him, Mr. Piccolo?" Gohan took a seat in front of the desk. "What was he like? I remember so little about him." Piccolo smiled and looked at something in the distance that wasn't there. "Goku was unlike any man I've known," he said. "He was a noble hero, a powerful warrior, a worthy rival and a good friend. But he was flawed, as all great men are. And his flaw was that he was just too damn competitive. He always threw himself into situations without thinking first, and that's what got him killed." "Killed?" Gohan said. "No, my father died in a freak accident in Aldaran City 7 years ago." "Is that what they've told you?" Piccolo stared at him. "Feeding you lies in hopes that you never discover the truth?" "What truth is that?" Gohan said, wide-eyed. "The truth of who you are," Piccolo said. "Gohan, you have the power to be the most powerful creature in the cosmos. The power in that courses through your veins is enough to destroy the entire world if left untrained." "Wow, that's intense." Gohan was sweating. "So I'm some sort of ticking time bomb just waiting to go off?" Piccolo shook his head. "No, you're not paying attention, Gohan. You're able to contain this enormous power within you thanks to the training we had all those years ago." "Training?" Gohan said, confused. "I don't remember any training. In fact, I don't remember ever meeting you before, either." Piccolo gritted his teeth. "Fine," he said, "maybe this will help." He stood up, and that's when Gohan noticed that Piccolo was missing his right arm, cut off at the elbow, but he resisted making a comment about it. Piccolo placed his arm over Gohan's forehead. "Hey, relax, kid," he said. "It's an ancient technique used to unlock hidden memories. Just hold still." Gohan relaxed and slowed his breathing. Piccolo closed his eyes and began to mentally probe through Gohan's memories. In an instant he saw Gohan's life for the past 7 years. He saw pain and poverty, but also a few happy memories. What kind of life have you had since then, kid? He saw the times the boy got bullied in school and teased for being quirkless. He saw the many nights that he went to bed with an empty stomach, and all the times that he looked up to the stars, praying for a change in his situation. And then, nothing. There was nothing there. Where are they? Where are his memories? In his mind, Piccolo saw a thick fog that prevented him from accessing memories beyond that point, and no matter how hard he tried, he could not get through. Piccolo blinked, and through the veil, all he could see was a golden glow from beyond. A monstrous howl met him that grew into a deafening roar. And then immediately, the experience was over, and he was back in his office. Mr. Piccolo, Gohan was looking up at him. Is everything alright? You're sweating a lot. Damn, Piccolo growled, removing his hand from the boy's forehead. It's no use. There's a mental fog in your mind that won't let me access the memories we need. Well, I guess that's why I have such a hard time remembering my past, Gohan said, rubbing a hand through his hair. A memory suppressor. Nail brushed his chin in thought. Could it be the work of someone's quirk? Piccolo sighed. That's what I suspect. There is definitely something beyond that wall that somebody doesn't want found. For now, we'll just have to find another way of jogging your memory. I need to know how you're still alive. What does that even mean? Gohan was so confused. Gohan, on the night that your father died, we didn't just lose Goku. We lost you, too. Gohan's heart started beating faster. What do you mean? It means you're supposed to be dead. Gohan was speechless. All he could do was shake his head. None of this makes any sense, he said in frustration. I came here for answers, and all I'm getting is more questions. Look, I know it doesn't make any sense, but we're going to get to the bottom of it. I have a plan. I'm going to make a proposition to you, Gohan, and I need to know right now if you are willing to agree to it. What do you have in mind? As I just told you, the power you have has the potential to be the most powerful quirk in the world, and if you don't train now to control it, it will destroy us all. So I want to train you for 10 months. You clearly have some sort of grip on your power, since you were able to use it in the cage match with Rapid Kendo. Let me train you. I will teach you to control it, and to harness it to its full potential. Your father believed, as I do, that if you have the power to make a difference in this world, you have the obligation to do it. And I'm telling you, Gohan, that you have the power to become the greatest hero anyone has ever known, and it all starts with this first step. But the choice is yours. I'm not going to force you into this life a second time. Just know that there is something coming, much worse than before, and we're going to need warriors to defend the world. Yeah, no pressure, huh? Gohan smiled. He looked down at his hands. Mom never told me any of this. For better or worse, I think she was trying to protect me from the dangers of this world. And if what you're saying is true, that I died once before, of course she would never want me to step back into a life of crime fighting. But I hear what you're saying, too, Mr. Piccolo, and I think that you're right. I have been gifted with my father's quirk. I once told my little brother that we can be heroes if we're not afraid to do what's right. Gohan stood up with a determined look in his eyes. Well, I'm not afraid, he said. I'm ready to become a true hero like my father was. I accept your training. Piccolo grinned. It's not going to be easy, he said. I'm going to push you to your very breaking point, and together we'll shatter past your limits. But in the end, you will discover who you really are and what you're truly capable of. And as for everything else, Nail said, breaking his silence. Your hidden memories, how you cheated death, and the identity of this mysterious third party. I have a feeling we have a clue right here as to where we should start looking. All Might, Piccolo said the name in disgust. He was the last person to see your father alive. He was there on that fateful day as well. I'm sure he would be able to shed some light as well. For now, though, let's focus on your training. Right, Gohan said, clenching his fists excitedly. Mom's probably going to kill me for this, but I'm sure I can talk her into letting me train over the next few months. Here, Piccolo scoffed. Yeah, I can train with Rapid Kendo. I'm sure he'd love that idea. As if you would be so lucky. Huh. We're taking things back to basics, Gohan. It's time to make a man out of you. Tomorrow, I want you to fly to the top of Mount Paozu and meet me there. That's where we're going to start your training. Whoa, tomorrow? Gohan said. I don't know about that, Mr. Piccolo. The tickets are going to be crazy expensive, not to mention the fact that the closest airport is in Diablo Desert, and that's nowhere near Mount Paozu. You're not going to take a plane there, Gohan, you're going to fly there. Wait, you mean as in, actually fly there? Piccolo's eyes narrowed in frustration. Don't tell me you've forgotten how to fly, too. Gohan laughed nervously and brushed his hair back. Well, actually, oh, never mind, Piccolo cut him off. Well, then I guess you're going to have to swim there. Huh, you want me to swim there? Gohan stood up. Oh man, this training really will be intense. And what about school? I still have 6 more months before the end of the school year. We'll take care of all of that when we get there. Yeah, it's going to be tough, but just remember this, Gohan. Greatness never came to anyone who wasn't willing to sacrifice for it. Yeah, no pressure, right? Gohan said. He's right. After everything I've learned today, there's no way things can go back to the way they were. I have an opportunity to finally know who I am and to master this gifted quirk. I can't turn all of that down now. Okay, I'll be there. Gohan breathed in and out, trying and failing to calm his pounding heart. He wiped his sweat away with his sleeve. Come on, he scolded himself. It's just Mom. You can do this. He breathed in and out one more time before approaching his mother, who was sitting in her chair reading a book while Goten did his homework. Mom, Gohan said, his heart leaping. Oh hi, Gohan, you're a little later than usual today. Did something happen on the way home? I just had a long day, that's all. Ah, Chi-Chi patted his shoulder. Did you learn a lot today? Yeah, his eyes lowered. You could say that. Well, good. See Goten, you have such a good example in your big brother. He's going to be the first in the Sun family to grace this house with a prestigious diploma. Isn't that right, Gohan? Gohan? There was a silence that lasted uncomfortably long. Honey, what's wrong? Mom, why didn't you tell me? Tell you what? If you're talking about the job. No, about Dad, and about me. What about you and your father? Gohan, I don't understand. Gohan drew a breath. Mom, what am I? Silence again. You're my baby boy, Chi-Chi said slowly, her eyes beginning to widen, realizing where this conversation was going. And what else am I? Gohan looked up at her. When she said nothing, Gohan felt irritation swelling from his chest. Mom, why did you lie to me? You've told me I'm quirkless all of my life and that Dad died in an accident in the city. Gohan, that's the truth. No, it isn't. Gohan shook his head, his voice rising. Mom, I know the truth now, about everything. What are you talking about? I know that my dad wasn't some quirkless farmer, and neither am I. Gohan, where is all of this coming from? I met Piccolo. Chi-Chi paled noticeably at the sound of the name. He told me everything. Him, a common thug and not my own mother, told me the truth about what I am. He told me about who my father really was. And he told me about how I died 7 years ago. No, that's not true, Chi-Chi cried, tears filling her eyes. Gohan, Goten said from the kitchen table. You're saying really scary things, stop it. I'm sorry, Gohan said, lowering his voice and trying his best to calm down, but sweat was pouring down his face and he could hear his heart beating against his ears. Mom, I already know everything. I just need to hear it from you. Chi-Chi closed her eyes and wiped her tears, and when she opened them again, Gohan was shocked to see a fierceness in them. That monster has no business talking to you, Gohan. You stay away from him, you hear? I've done my absolute best to move this family forward, even when we lost everything. All I've wanted was to help you two get a good education so you can find decent jobs in the future and escape this financial hole we've been in all of our lives. I warned Goku that getting tangled with the likes of that villain would affect us all, but he never listened. And look where that got us. So it is true, Gohan closed his eyes. Of course, he trusted that Piccolo was telling him the truth. But with his mother's confirmation, suddenly the truth felt so much heavier. And that really angered Gohan. Mom, what happened to me 7 years ago? He tried again. Chi-Chi straightened in her chair and her eyes filled with fresh tears. Mom? Why didn't you tell me about my quirk? Silence. Gohan stared at her, refusing to speak. All I want is for you to tell me, Mom. That's all I want. I'm sorry, Gohan, but I don't want you talking to that man ever again. Leave this hero fantasy out of this house and focus on your classes. Gohan closed his eyes. Something dark from deep within him snaked out. A feeling he had never felt before. No, he said. What did you just say? No, mother. Gohan's eyes opened and Chi-Chi's expression dropped. All of my life as I've known it is a lie. I'm not a normal, quirkless boy, am I? The room started to tremble. Mommy. Goten ran to his mother's side. Get behind me, Goten, Chi-Chi shouted desperately. What am I, mother? What happened all those years ago? What happened to my memories? What happened to my dad? Why the hell have you been keeping it all a secret from me? His voice had risen to an enraged growl from deep within him. Energy surged out like a typhoon, knocking things over and shaking the apartment building. The lights flickered and died, the doors and windows flapping wildly with the powerful winds. Gohan, stop. Chi-Chi curled into a ball with a terrified Goten. Why didn't you tell me? The force of the winds knocked down a mirror and it fell on the ground, shattering to pieces. That brought Gohan back to his senses, and in the shattered mirror he saw his reflection. His hair had raised up and his pupils had begun to glow slightly. His face was a twisted mask of rage. I'm sorry, he said breathlessly, closing his eyes, pushing down his rage. The winds began to subside and settle. Mom, he said, raising his hand to the two quaking figures on the ground. Mom, I'm sorry. What are you? Chi-Chi cried, backing away from him. Mom, Gohan stepped forward. It's me, Goten, don't be scared little guy. Don't come any closer. I won't let you hurt Goten. Goten cried heavily in his mother's arms. I would never. Goten, it's okay, I'm not going to hurt you, I'm sorry. But the child buried his face in Chi-Chi's arms and wouldn't look at him. Slowly, the rage subsided and Gohan stared at his reflection in the mirror, horrified at what had just happened. His mother and brother laid on the ground in a fetal position, terrified of him. Shame and guilt washed over Gohan. Mom, I don't know what got into me. I'm sorry, get out. Get out of this house, Chi-Chi growled. Her face was pale and her eyes wide with fear. Get out. Gohan lowered his gaze to the ground. Just like that, he had lost everything. Piccolo was right. His power was too dangerous to be left untamed. I'm so sorry, he said. He turned and ran out of the broken house. His breaths were rasps of air and tears poured down his face as he left the only family he had left. What have I done? How could I lose control so easily? I hurt Mom and Goten. Brother. Gohan heard Goten's voice but he couldn't turn back. He was too ashamed to look at his little brother in the face. Don't leave me, Gohan. Gohan just ran and kept running until his legs couldn't take him any further. As he reached the Sea of Dagobah, he collapsed on the ocean side and passed out. The snowstorm is heavier than we anticipated, Nail commented. Piccolo didn't respond. His eyes were glued to the path that led up to them at the mountain's peak. You really think it was a good idea to have the boy swim all the way here? Even if he survives, he'll freeze to death. Gohan, Piccolo said proudly as the boy climbed his way up the path. He went to greet him but Gohan did not look up. His gaze was lowered and Piccolo sensed distraught energy emanating from the boy. Piccolo didn't have to ask, he already knew what had happened. The fact that Gohan had sacrificed so much just to be here told him that he was determined to see his training through. Come on, son, Piccolo said, extending his arm over the boy. Let's train. You are cold, tired, hungry and alone. For most people, that's enough of an excuse to quit. I will teach you to draw strength from your weaknesses and to mold that strength into raw power. Gohan climbed the side of the mountain, wearing nothing but the weighted cape and turban that Piccolo gave him in the light Namekian clothes. The wind howled and burned his skin, but that burn fueled him to keep pushing further. He sunk his fingers into the side of the mountain and kept going. You will learn to strengthen your quirk. Gohan gathered all of his energy into the palms of his hands, his arms stretched above his head, and shot it forward. MAAAAASENKOOO. The blast extended out and cracked the side of the large boulder and Gohan immediately dropped into a crouch. Kamehameha. A blue wave of destruction shot out from his palms and finished destroying the large boulder. As well as your body, high above a bottomless ravine, standing on the frozen tops of bamboo trees, Nail and Piccolo appeared on either side of Gohan and pummeled him mercilessly. Gohan took Piccolo's kick in the face and used the force to flip and land a two-legged body drop on Nail, sending him flying back. Nail sent a blast that caught Gohan in the back, but he stopped himself from falling by wrapping his legs around the top of the bamboo tree. Slowly, he pulled himself up. Good, you're getting stronger, Piccolo said breathlessly, again. And mind. Gohan's eyes were closed and his arms and legs were crossed. As he meditated, his body began to float, his power gathering, preparing for the next day. And when we're done, Gohan screamed as he reached the very top of Mount Paozu. Gohan leapt high, his shoulder-length hair flying in the wind. His kicks were a blur as he switched between his targets. In the end, both Piccolo and Nail landed together at the bottom of the ravine. Unstoppable. High above the mountaintop, Gohan gathered his energy. A bright white aura surrounded him. He unleashed his energy and shot up through the clouds, flying through the moonlit sky. 10 months later, I don't get why I'm the one who has to do all the fishing, Nail was saying as he hauled in 2 large fish. You're the one that eats like starved child. Gohan laughed. I am a starved child, he teased. Very funny. Ah, come on Nail, just think of it as more training. Yeah, right. At least we could have asked Miss Pizza to pack us some lunches. Her cooking is terrible, Piccolo said. You're a real charmer, brother. I'll never understand what she sees in you. Piccolo leaned back and smirked. All kidding aside, she's an amazing woman, he said. Without her, Papaya Island would come crashing down in an instant. And she's the first woman whose company I enjoy. Nail winked at Gohan, who laughed to himself. Just shut up and eat, Piccolo said, annoyed. That evening, the 3 ate the fish by their campfire. Spring had arrived and with it, warmer climates. Mount Paozu was so beautiful this time of the year. Gohan put his schoolbooks down and rested his chin against his fists. Mr. Piccolo, he said after a long pause. I never did ask you. How did my father die? Piccolo blinked as he stared into the campfire. Your father died saving the world against a monster. Who killed him? Nobody knows his real name. That's an identity he discarded long ago. Now he is only known and feared by all as All for One. All for One? Yes, named after his quirk. He's a fiend that has the ability to steal powers and combine them together. He used his powers to build a large criminal empire, and you could say I was his right-hand man, helping him recruit more soldiers for his cause and manage the financial aspects of his illegal businesses, a position in which my own father had been in charge of before me. But he failed All for One too many times and was cast out. Shortly after, I took control. I worked hard and made his organization's influence spread throughout the country, but I was never loyal to him. And for many years I planned to overthrow him and take over the entire organization. That's around the time that I met your father. I had never met someone as strong and tenacious and good-hearted as Goku. He had these amazing gifts, but he didn't use them to pursue a career as a pro hero. He always believed that he should use his powers to save others, not to gain wealth or recognition or fame. We fought a couple of times, but in the end, we joined forces against All for One. Piccolo paused to poke the dying fire with the stick. The flame licked the branch and livened up again. At the time, my plan had been to pit Goku against All for One, and when they both destroyed each other, I would rise up from the flames as the new king of villains. As the new leader, I would need a right-hand man to be my successor, and I chose you. Gohan straightened. Me? Why me? My quirk couldn't have been that strong back then. Piccolo scoffed. That's what Chi-Chi wanted you to think. Your mother didn't want you to follow in your father's footsteps, but I saw the truth. I saw the dormant power within you, the same as your father's, or maybe even stronger. So I took you under my wing and trained you as best as I could. You should have seen the heights of power you climbed. But those heights are mere anthills compared to where you are now. Your strength grew, but so did something else, our friendship. You were the first person who didn't look at me like a monster, though admittedly that's a title I deserved. Through the year that you trained with me, you helped me see that not all power and justice came from the darkness, and I was able to release the anger that consumed me all of my life. So I discarded my plans, but it had been too late, because All for One had always been one step ahead. He took my quirk, and with it, my strength and regeneration, as well as my arm. He wanted me to know what it felt like to be truly powerless. Piccolo closed his left arm into a fist. I wasn't able to warn Goku, nor All Might, of All for One's new powers. All I could do was try to get you to safety, but I failed. You died that night because I wasn't strong enough to protect you. That night we also lost Goku, and the Z-Fighters, brave warriors that fought alongside him against the villains. All Might was severely wounded. And even All for One had been slain, along with the entirety of his organization. It goes without saying, had it been up to me, I would have gladly given my life to protect you. Your father was a good man. He was my friend. Goku gave his life to save you and the rest of the world, and I couldn't help him in the end. And then I let his son die. All for One took everything from me and turned me into the shell of a man I am today. After that, I used what I had left of the villain funds to rebuild Papaya Island, and I've been working hard on myself to reach the peak of my potential, even in this broken state I'm in, so that I can give back to the people of Namek and atone for the life I'd led. And now, the shadow of All for One rises once again, Nail interjected. War is coming, and we're going to need strong heroes to defend the innocent. And the second problem is that society is losing trust in heroes and crime is skyrocketing. The symbol of peace just isn't enough anymore. They need more. Someone to inspire them to act bravely, to help each other out, and give them hope that there are others willing to stand up for justice in defense of the innocent. The blur must come back, now more than ever before. A silence fell among the trio as they huddled closely against the fire. Gohan said nothing in return, he just kept staring at the fire. So, Piccolo said, that's the story. Piccolo, Gohan said, I want to thank you for everything you've done for me until this point. I know it hasn't always been easy, but you never lost faith in me. And I don't want to let you down. So what's our next move? Piccolo smirked, tossing the stick into the fire. Come with me. Piccolo led Gohan down a winding path that led to a disheveled little building by the edge of the cliff. Does this place look familiar to you? Gohan entered the dark little hut, feeling some form of nostalgia swell within him, but he just couldn't remember why. No, he said. Some bankers were using this place to grow illegal drugs, but we bought it back. They didn't bother with the house. All they wanted was the field. But this house was the place you were born, Gohan. Your home. Gohan felt emotions course through him as we turned the lights on. Do you remember? In his mind's eye, he could see the ghosts of his father and mother sitting at the kitchen table or playing with him, his mother reading him a story as she tucked him into bed. Suddenly the fog in his mind lifted just a little bit. I remember, Gohan said. He turned and walked down a hall to the master bedroom and kneeled down in front of a chest, hidden under the bed. He slowly opened it to find green robes, a cape, a black bodysuit, and a strange device that he had not seen in the photograph from before. It's time, Gohan, Piccolo said, placing a hand on his shoulder. You're ready. Gohan stepped outside, a gust of wind blowing over his green robes and black bodysuit underneath. A red cape flowed with the wind dramatically. In his face, the green scouter came online, flashing data and numbers at his left eyes and through the earpiece. He had sacrificed so much, now he was ready to take his first step into a larger world. And now, the preview. Gohan's not the same kid he was when he started his journey towards becoming a hero. His power has grown to unbelievable heights. But how will he react when he faces a problem he's never faced before? Oh no! Did the girl just jump from the top of the building? And who the heck is Midoriya? Find out next time. The path set before me. Go beyond. Plus Ultra. And that's the end of What If Gohan Was in My Hero Academia Part 1. Hope you liked my video. Please subscribe, like and share Roranoa TV for more fanfiction crossover stories.